how to deal with change in your life. Change can be difficult for all of us, but it is inevitable. So knowing how to deal with it can be very helpful. So in this video, I plan to show you how to embrace change, some mindset things you can go into change with to be really helpful, and then some coping strategies that you can develop along the way. With that being said, my name's Chris Richardson. In the past, I used to really struggle with change. I used to want to keep my routine prim and proper, no change at all. And if there was change, my whole day was blown up and it was a big problem for me. And it wasn't until I started to adopt some of these mindsets that my life really changed. So I promise you by the end of this video, you will better understand how to deal with change in your life. So the first step with having to deal with change in your life is to simply be to embrace it. Change is inevitable. It is going to happen throughout your life no matter what. There's no way you can prevent it. Yes, you can reduce change, but sometimes that's not a good thing. And so the only way to truly move through change is to actually embrace it. And especially if you have goals. If you have some goals, you're going to have to change yourself. You're going to have to become a new person to achieve that goal, because your current person or identity is not achieving that goal. So you must change your identity and change your behavior to achieve that goal. So with this, with embracing it and with its inevitability, if you can accept change, that will really help. And some good ways to accept change is to actually focus on the upside and opportunities that change will bring. It's one thing you can look at is if you have some goals and you have to change yourself, maybe you have to work more, maybe you have to be more intense, maybe you have to cut out some things in your life. Those may be hard and difficult changes to do, but if you can flip it and be like, you know what, this actually creates a lot of opportunity for me to grow and to achieve my goals. And it's actually really good for my growth to create this change. And maybe the example is a new job. Maybe you get a new job and you're really comfortable in your old job and you really enjoyed your coworkers, and this new job might be a little bit higher pressure. But if your goal one day is to reach a certain level within the company or make a certain amount of money, then that change is necessary and that new job is necessary. So maybe if you were to be able to flip it and be like, you know what, I'm gonna miss out on these things, but I have really good opportunities for growth and opportunities for learning for me to reach my long-term goal. Or maybe you're upset about the change of moving. Maybe you have to move. I just recently went through a move and I wasn't super happy about it either. I liked the place I was at. And so with moving, if I can accept the opportunities and the changes it'll bring in a positive light, it'll help me move through that change and those emotions quicker. So if you can do the same, again, if you have to change some of the people that you're around, or you have to change some of your routine, these things may be hard, but if you can look at the good side, that can really help you with that change. On top of this, if you can practice gratitude for change itself, that can be helpful. Actually being thankful that you can change. Because imagine if you were to live in a third world country where you were poor and you didn't even have the opportunity to change. Your life had to look this way for survival. Well, then you can't change. And so actually being grateful for the fact that you get to change and be thankful for all the opportunities you've been afforded can really help with embracing that change. So the second piece is developing coping strategies. Let's say that you're really struggling with change still and you're not able to fully embrace it. You've gone through some of the upsides, the opportunities, you've practiced some gratitude, and it's still not really working. Well, now you can implement some coping strategies to help it, make it work. And with this, one coping strategy that I like to do is lean on my relationships, whether that's with my fiance, with my parents, with my mentor. If I can lean on them and say, you know what, I'm really struggling with this change, and kind of talk it out, I actually start to hear myself say some things like, you know what, this change is actually probably gonna be good. So I think one of the biggest benefits of talking to people about your own problems, stuff like that, is actually just hearing yourself say things. You'll hear yourself and be like, you know what, that's actually really good. So hearing yourself talk these things out can be really helpful, and you can do this through relationships. On top of relationships, I would encourage you to establish a routine to gain stability and gain control. So with me moving, I've gained this kind of routine and an ability for me to gain back this control. It's the same thing if you were to start a new job. I would encourage you to, as quickly as possible, establish a routine so you can fit into that change and become comfortable. It's the same thing if you have to cut out certain things or work in a different way to achieve your goals. Try to establish that routine so you have stability and control, so the change isn't as abrasive. Now, on top of establishing a routine, simply self-care can be really helpful. Some change you can't control, you can't establish a routine for, and you can't create a relationship or lean on a relationship. Let's say you lose a loved one, and maybe that's a relationship that you needed. And I hope this doesn't happen to any of you guys or myself anytime soon, but it is an inevitability that it will happen one day. And self-care might be what you need in this instance, and other instances as well. So self-care, one of my favorites is exercise, gratitude, and giving to those more needy than me. When I do those three things, I tend to feel better if I do one of those three things, especially exercise and especially helping those who are in need. If you can do those things, I think you'll feel a lot better and you'll be grateful, not if you lose a loved one, but for some of the other change if you're struggling with it. On top of exercise, another thing I really like to do for just natural dopamine is an ice bath. An ice bath, you get in it and you are so cold, but once you get out of it, your mind feels so much better. And it actually, studies show that it releases the same amount of dopamine as cocaine, but cocaine, is over, 15 minutes, whereas this is over the whole day. You experience that release the same amount as cocaine. So an ice bath can be really helpful to kind of just get some of that dopamine releasing, get that brain firing. On top of that, maybe it's time to just explore some hobbies. Hobbies can be really helpful if you're going through a really hard change. Taking up some hobbies. One of my favorites is frisbee golf. I'm not very good at it, but I like getting out there, getting out in nature. It's just really peaceful and I enjoy it a lot. So if you can find a hobby that you can lean on within your self-care to help the change, that can be super impactful as well when working through this change and dealing with the change in your life. So the third and the final piece that you can do to deal with change within your life is to set goals and be proactive. With change, it can be hard, but if you can take control of your life through routine, setting goals, or being proactive, this is going to be the quickest way to adopt this change and really thrive within it. Recognizing that change is inevitable, so it's important for you to be in charge and set those goals. I like to do daily, weekly, quarterly, and yearly goals. As I talked about, I've just moved, and these daily goals help me just take back control of my life. And maybe I have other daily goals where I unpack stuff. Again, that helps me be proactive and get things done quicker. On top of setting goals, a mindset shift you can go through for future change is to be open to changing your ways and adopt a non-binary mode of thinking. I don't mean non-binary in gender. I have my own opinions on that stuff. But what I mean is that don't go from I can't deal with change to I can deal with change. It's a spectrum. It's a way where you can go from, okay, I'm gonna really try to adapt to this change, or this change is a little bit harder, so I have to lean on myself more. It's just a spectrum. It's the same thing with I am disciplined and undisciplined. If I was 100% disciplined, I would eventually burn out. If I'm 100% non-disciplined, I wouldn't get anything done. So usually, I lie around the 75 to 80% discipline, and sometimes I have to go higher, sometimes I go lower. At nights, I typically shift over to like the 20% discipline, after midnight and I'm just hanging out a little bit, I'd shift completely. So being able to be open to change, not just being stuck in your ways, can be really helpful with dealing with this change and not having this non-binary thinking. Now, on top of that, if you really are still struggling with change, you've tried all these things, you've tried self-care, you've tried routine, you've tried embracing it, tried being thankful, all that stuff, it may be time to seek help, especially if you lose a loved one. If you lose a loved one, that change is going to be so difficult, and that is why I would encourage you to maybe seek help before doing any of these things. So if you're really struggling with change, it's a big change, sometimes help can be very helpful. With that, I would encourage you to see a therapist, maybe a coach if it's a future-based change and not focus on the past, stuff like that. All these things can be very helpful. If you want to create change in your life, I would encourage you to take the balance wheel in the description below, because the balance wheel can help you highlight areas of your life that you want to create change in. And so with that being said, go take that balance wheel in the description below, because it lays out your professional relationships, your health, and your resources in a really cohesive way. On top of that, if you guys will comment, that's the best way for me to know what you guys like and don't like about these videos. And if you'll like and subscribe as well, it's very helpful for the channel.